You know, I do think one of the most important things is that sense of building a current where people begin to feel they're part of something that is really going somewhere. And I think in some ways when I look at our work in South Africa compared with our work in Kenya, we've been working with a range of very different organizations which are not in touch with each other in many ways. And they don't give each other the inspiration that we were able to get by working within a context which constantly brought people together in a particular
one
way.
institution.
So,
which is, and for all one can say about churches or the Catholic Church, hell, it's a big multinational. It goes right down to the grassroots.
Yes, this is one of the things that Brian Hare, one of the American priest who was at one time General Secretary, I think, of the Catholic Bishops' Conference, he said, we get fed up with the Catholic Church, but where else is there an organization that has a local structure in almost every village, everywhere around the world, and connections at every level across this way? And that there is that kind of a certain binding vision, even though you feel huge differences between different members of things, but a certain binding vision and a structure that is constantly has got communication in all directions.
As well as, so that's the sociological part of it, but then you've got the spiritual part of it.
Absolutely.
Is that you can tap into the goodwill of what that means. And okay, it might mean some what I might say very fundamentalist and kind of pious stuff on one hand, but you can even tap into that pious stuff, because I mean, very easily.
It brings out a generosity.
Yes.
And I think what I always wish is you could get together, you could have an interfaith thing that would be as strong as we've experienced in the Catholic Church, where Muslims would be tapping into all the best that Muslim belief brings, and Hindus and Judaism, of course, I think has a fantastic thing that. The Psalms, I just absolutely love the Psalms, but they're constantly challenging. I'm not at all surprised, because I would actually agree about the most radical book would be the Bible. But you feel also there are similar things like that in all the scriptures of the different faiths, and I would love to have something that constantly was bringing together people across all those boundaries and getting them to feel we're going somewhere together. That was really the feeling that was so strong in Kenya.
So the advice to the popular educator is to go and join the Catholic Church?
No, not necessarily, but to bring that.
No, what
kind
I
of
think Anna is talking about is how do you help to cross over? It goes back to the whole on. How do you help cross over to make it whole? So that your people working in environmental stuff, which are sitting over here, and your people working on fracking, or your people working on
But this is why I think
toilets,
this coalition thing could be very important for the future. If you really get these coalitions of the ones around popular education, the ones around health education, the ones around environmental education, gender, youth, really coming together and working with each other, inspiring each other, pooling their resources. This was one of the things that was so lovely in Kenya, all the dioceses would have their paid staff, but they would let them go to any other diocese to work. And so they were constantly sort of fertilizing each other. And something like that you could have. And I think if this coalition thing could get off the ground, that could be a really, really
But I think I think Anna's seeing very interestingly the more of the bigger current, which is more political and on the society level. And I was thinking, working in a team, that if you're not really connected as a team, where you're challenging each other, and to say sorry, you're starting to act like a boss again, Sally, or you're being, too pushy, or could you say that in a different way?
You're an ostrich, you're hiding your head in the ground.
Or whatever it is, that there is that. So therefore the personal challenge to change and to reflect,
yes,
and
I think that's
time on it.
I agree with you.
And to give time to it within workshops, within the self, that it's not just glossed over. Oh yeah, that's okay. No, that's not okay.
They should all have what the French call a revision de vie every night. The little sisters. You have to every night look and see what was the quality of my own reaction to things during the day? What was the quality of our interaction as a small group working together, a team? What was the quality of what we did in our institution, our school where we're teaching, or our hospital where we're working? That you really look at every one of those different levels. What is the quality of how we're recycling our rubbish, in the environmental situation? That you really look at those different levels of effectiveness or regularly.
Yeah.
Nice.
What we learned after about the first 3 months, we were in Katui giving a workshop, and Anne said, we put them into groups of threes, and Anne said, you know, if they ever knew that why they like these workshops is putting them into groups of threes, and that they can talk as
Put
much
them
as they
into
like.
groups of threes and give them a topic to talk about that they're really very interested in. That's what the survey does,
That
on
then
the generative themes.
we would be out of a job, so we won't tell them that that's the most key thing.
But it really is, that
is.
whole sense of liberating people to express themselves, because they've had so much to
Well, and then
education
that
coming
same
in.
workshop, I think it was the bishop was there. He then, after 4 days, we were in Katui, you know, I forget that bishop's name.
Which one?
Done.
Done.
And he closes it off, and he said, I never knew we had lay people who were so
Yes.
Articulate.
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 Because he had
yes.
never allowed.
He'd never asked them to talk.